The first thing people noticed about the veteran was how out of place he looked in the polished banquet hall. The chandeliers glowed softly above rows of pressed uniforms and polished shoes, while he stood near the back in a faded jacket that had once been olive drab, its elbows thin to threads. His boots were clean but old, the kind that had walked too many miles to care about appearances anymore. Most assumed he had wandered in by mistake, or that he was someone's forgotten guest. No one imagined he had any real business being there, especially not on a night meant to celebrate command, medals, and careers still alive with promise. The colonel noticed him during a pause between speeches. He was a sharp man, silver hair cropped close, chest heavy with ribbons that told a long and careful story of advancement. He scanned the room with the practiced ease of someone used to being seen and respected, and his eyes snagged on the lone figure standing quietly by the wall. Something about the veteran's posture bothered him, not slouched, not deferential, but balanced, alert, like a man who had learned long ago how to disappear without ever truly relaxing. Curiosity tugged at the colonel, the kind that came from years of assessing people as potential assets or risks. When the colonel approached, conversation nearby softened. Rank had that effect. He offered the veteran a polite but distant nod. "Evening," he said. "I don't believe we've met." The veteran returned the nod, his movements economical, eyes clear but tired. "Evening, sir." His voice was calm, steady, with none of the tremor people expected from men who had fallen on hard times. The colonel glanced at the jacket, the worn boots, then back at the man's face. "What unit were you with?" he asked, casual, almost offhand. The veteran answered simply, naming a unit that hadn't existed for over a decade. The colonel raised an eyebrow. "Long time ago," he said. "What was your call sign?" It was meant as small talk, a way to place the man neatly into a category, a relic of a different era. For a brief moment, the veteran hesitated. It wasn't the hesitation of someone trying to remember. It was the pause of someone deciding whether the truth was worth saying out loud. Then he spoke. "Hawk 8. The effect was immediate and profound. The low murmur of the room died as if someone had cut power to the building. A glass slipped from a major's hand and shattered against the floor, the sound echoing far too loudly in the sudden silence. Several officers turned slowly, faces drained of color, eyes fixed on the man by the wall. The colonel felt it too, a cold recognition crawling up his spine. He knew that call sign. Everyone in certain circles did, even if they pretended not to. "Hawk 8, the colonel repeated quietly, his tone no longer casual. The veteran nodded once. "That's what they called me." A lieutenant nearby swallowed hard. Another officer unconsciously straightened to attention. Hawk 8 wasn't just a call sign, it was a legend spoken about in secure rooms and whispered after too many drinks. Missions that never officially happened, men who went in and didn't come back, impossible odds met by impossible resolve, and at the center of it all, according to rumor, was Hawk 8. The colonel studied the veteran again, really looked this time, the faint scar disappearing into his hairline, the way his hands rested loosely at his sides, ready without tension, the eyes that had seen too much and learned how to live with it. "You're supposed to be dead," the colonel said before he could stop himself. The veteran gave a small, humorless smile. "Wouldn't be the first time I heard that, sir." The silence pressed in, heavy with unasked questions. Finally, someone spoke. "Sir," a captain said carefully, "Hawk 8 was listed as KIA during the Black Ridge operation." The veteran's smile faded. "That's right, Black Ridge. We were told extraction would be delayed 20 minutes. It turned into 3 days." He wasn't boasting. He wasn't even emotional. He was stating facts the way one might describe the weather. "My team held the ridge so the evac birds could land. When it was over, command needed a clean ending. Dead men don't talk." The colonel felt something shift inside him, a slow, uncomfortable reckoning. He remembered the reports, redacted pages, vague language, commendations quietly shelved. He remembered how promotions continued upward, built on foundations that no one examined too closely. "Why are you here?" the colonel asked, his voice lower now. "If you're Hawk 8, why aren't you—" He gestured vaguely, meaning medals, pensions, recognition. The veteran glanced around the room at the polished brass and bright smiles. "Because after Black Ridge, I was useful but inconvenient. I followed orders that couldn't be written down. When the work ran out, so did the protection. Records disappeared. Calls stopped getting returned. Turns out it's easy to become broke when you don't exist on paper. He shrugged lightly, as if discussing someone else's misfortune. I heard one of my old men was being honored tonight. Thought I'd see how he turned out. The colonel's throat tightened. He knew exactly which officer the veteran meant, a decorated major seated near the front, a man whose career had been saved by an extraction Hawk 8's team had secured at the cost of everything. The major's face had gone pale, his eyes fixed on his folded hands. He hadn't turned around. He didn't need to. He knew. The room waited, breath held, as years of buried truth hovered just beneath the surface. "You should have been taken care of," the colonel said finally. It sounded weak even to his own ears. The veteran met his gaze evenly. A lot of us should have been taken care of. Some were luckier than others. There was no accusation in his tone, just a quiet acceptance that cut deeper than anger ever could. The colonel straightened, then did something no one expected. He came to attention and saluted. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, one by one, officers across the room followed suit. The sound of chairs scraping back was soft but unmistakable. Medals caught the light as hands rose in unison. The veteran stiffened in surprise, then returned the salute, his movement crisp despite the years. For that moment, rank and status dissolved, leaving only shared understanding and long-delayed respect. The silence was no longer awkward, it was reverent. When the salute ended, the veteran lowered his hand and exhaled slowly. "Thank you," he said, and for the first time emotion crept into his voice. Not bitterness, not triumph, but something like closure. The colonel stepped closer. "You don't have to leave like this," he said quietly. "There are things we can fix, records we can reopen." The veteran considered this, then shook his head. "Maybe," he said, "but tonight wasn't about fixing things. It was about remembering who paid for them." He turned towards the door, moving with the same quiet certainty he'd carried into the room. Just before he reached it, he paused and looked back once more. "Tell them Hawk 8 made it home." Then he was gone, swallowed by the night. The room remained silent long after, each person left alone with the weight of what they had witnessed, a reminder that some heroes don't fade because they're forgotten, but because remembering them asks too much of the conscience. For more thrilling, emotional, and unforgettable stories, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and share with friends who love powerful twists.